Listen, I don't hate Aliens. In fact, I love it. The action, the cast, the world building, really just the way it tells its story, completely peeling back each layer of Ripley's character, not only expanding on it, but infusing it within the narrative, allowing her to connect the details of the previous film with the novelties of the second, turning Aliens into a sequel that answers most of the lingering questions from its predecessor. But that's the problem. This second film solidifies the priorities of the franchise, centralizing the xenomorph and all of its variants, deciding that from this point forward, all of the conflicts, all of the problems, all of the plots that matter in this universe revolve around this particular species. It even retroactively transforms the direction of the original, suggesting a reinterpretation that places the xenomorph as the paramount figure of both Alien and the franchise as a whole, a creature whose existence must always take precedence over every other aspect of the story. You see, people often complain anytime a new installment for this franchise doesn't focus almost entirely around the xenomorph. Whether it's Prometheus, or Alien Earth, or somehow even Alien Covenant, people expect the xenomorph, that specific species, to play not only a, but the central role in the story, and consider it a failure if it doesn't, no matter how many previous iterations of the iconic monster already exist. In every film of the original quadrilogy, we see the xenomorph take a starring role, playing the primary antagonistic force, oftentimes doing so through several aliens at once. And with so much exposure, we've now seen them in all sorts of locations and scenarios, having learned what feels like everything they have to offer. Their reproductive cycle, their defensive mechanisms, their intelligence, their behavior, their social hierarchy. It's pretty comprehensive, but alongside all of this exploration is one of science fiction's most iconic characters, a woman who's become one of cinema's definitive representations of motherhood, the only person in this series who's been able to match the popularity and influence of the franchise's golden goose. Ellen Ripley. While Alien introduced the world to Ripley, Aliens turned her into an icon, blending her story with those violent extraterrestrials, fortifying this dynamic as the defining central piece of the franchise, a precedent that continued for at least 2 more films. Aliens, though, did it better than the others, presenting Ripley as a woman who's been lost to time, struggling to place herself in an unfamiliar world, and as she reconciles with the life that's passed her by, the daughter she missed grow old, she confronts the same force that didn't fade away, but grew stronger. You see, only the threats from her past life, the aliens, the company, continued into her new one, at first simplifying Ripley to her relationship with them, how they've changed her, but soon forcing her to reestablish herself with new connections, and seeing that development over the course of the film, how Ripley's leadership grows alongside Newt and Hicks, is why James Cameron's Aliens is so beloved. At the heart of the film lies one of science fiction's most endearing relationships, one that illustrates some of the most noble characteristics humanity has to offer. Like I said, Aliens is a very good film, but Alien is different. Alien executes nearly every aspect of filmmaking to perfection, from the acting, to the music, to the cinematography that captures perhaps the greatest set design in history, not only defining a world far ahead of our own, but also implying another one beyond that, one that escapes our comprehension, complete with a history that we can't explain, comprised of only relics from an era lost to time. The artifacts found on the derelict ship allude to mysteries far beyond the grasp of humanity, blending the organic with the technological, an unsettling juxtaposition of nature and nurture that leaves me with a feeling I can't quite describe. I can't explain it. What exactly is the space jockey? Can it separate from the machine, or are they one and the same? What was its purpose? How long has it been there? Decades? Centuries? Eons? This moment evokes a sense of mystery that stains the rest of the story, intensifying the unsettling feelings that began at the same time the film did. From its opening moments, before a character says a single word, Alien establishes a sense of unease, a slowness that exists even in its title sequence as the letters materialize, accompanied by sounds that more closely match machinery than music. The film continues building this eeriness as the camera floats through the interiors of a mechanical spacecraft, its design complicated and overbearing, dark and mysterious, hiding secrets within its intricate shapes. It feels hyper-industrial and harsh, not futuristic and smooth. All of the visuals and sounds create a collection of apprehensive emotions that periodically intensify through dread and suspense into the much more explicit fear. From the desaturated colors and soft lighting to the ambient drones and feathery music, Alien never loses its sense of atmosphere, each new decision supporting instead of contradicting the previous one. Its cinematography and dim lighting add a softness to the visuals, reinforcing the film's largely melancholy tone with shots like this, as well as capturing some of the most imitated designs in the medium. And not only with elaborate sets, but of course with the creatures as well. Every stage of the alien's life cycle now an icon in the genre, from the ovomorph to the facehugger to the full-grown xenomorph. But while the visuals of these creatures and even their signature sounds, their shrieks and hisses, place them among the most effective and recognizable antagonists of all time, the qualities that would make them something more than a force of nature, but an actual character, don't. You see, there's only so much you can do with an enemy that can't speak, whose motivations don't seem to extend beyond reproduction, whose personality is almost entirely defined by how it attacks its prey. Yet people want to see them over and over again in what seems like the same ways they've already seen them. And I think it all stems from Aliens, the film that set the precedent for the goals of this franchise. Yes, Alien came first, and also included a xenomorph, but Aliens decided to include it again, creating a pattern, an expectation that the franchise still hasn't escaped to this day. Basically, every piece of Alien media is expected to include the xenomorph, with all other aspects considered secondary, as if the presence of that particular monster made the first film so memorable. To me though, what made Alien special, what made it unique, isn't anything material. It's not a character or a line of dialogue or a particular creature design, it's how it feels. It's the atmosphere, whose particular intricacies only exist in this film. Nowhere else have I felt the same sense of discomfort and dread. Other films might mix their own cocktail of tension, but none can quite replicate what Alien provides, despite how many countless properties have tried to imitate it in the years since it came out. It's truly unique. This misunderstanding of what sets Alien apart is perhaps the clearest in the title itself. Alien. What do you think it refers to? Most people would say the xenomorph, right? Well, I'm not so sure about that. See, it's not called the alien, it's just alien. Feeling more like an adjective than a noun, not like it's referring to any particular entity, but to the nebulous concept of otherness, being foreign, the fear of the unknown. Alien. Of course, the xenomorph's design is so great that it entices you to include it in everything related to the franchise. Its long head, its black skin, its acid blood, its mechanical features all fuse into an organism perfect for horror, one that can blend in with both the shadows and the strange structure of the ship, whose very birth requires a perversion of the human body. How could you resist resurrecting it for every future installment? It really is incredible. To me though, the xenomorph should have just been one alien to appear in the franchise, one example of what humans should fear in the cosmos, one portrayal of the fate we might endure should we venture beyond the comforts of our home and into the vast darkness of space. The following films could have explored alternative but equally terrifying outcomes, and not just when encountering other life forms, but environments and processes too, harsh atmospheres and biological contamination. And as the franchise continued, the xenomorph could have kept its secrets and remained a mystery, one defined by speculation and the nebulous feelings that arise only when watching Alien. I'm not saying the franchise should have become an anthology. I think they could have had unifying concrete elements beyond the immaterial ones like the tone and atmosphere. They could have still further developed Weyland-Yutani as an antagonistic corporate force, and they could have brought back the same designs for the ships and crew. But I wish they had prioritized the feeling of Alien more than its main character and enemy. The franchise could have explored all things alien to humanity, further developing the horror signature created in the first film, expounding upon its largely unexplored mysteries without ever fully revealing them, enabling the feelings they evoked to live on through new characters and situations, regular people thrust into the cosmic horror of space. Now, Aliens isn't a bad movie. It's not even necessarily a bad Alien movie, at least not for what the franchise has become. because at this point, it is about the xenomorphs, whether I like it or not. And that's thanks to Aliens, which took the standout creature from the original film and expanded its presence, turning it from a mere curiosity to the main event. And many of the following films replicated this decision, giving the franchise a concrete image for its title, for the alien. But even though I still love it, at this point, I'm numb to the xenomorph. I'm numb to the facehugger and to the queen. But I'm not numb to the atmosphere. I'm not numb to the mysteries that define the cosmos, to the dread of what can happen in outer space, to the terror of bodily metamorphosis. I'm not numb to the fear of the unknown. Aliens didn't ruin the franchise. It simply defined it. I just wish the definition was a bit more vague. Thanks for watching.